Roscoe Conkling Giles, African-American surgeon, born 1890, died 1970. Roscoe Conkling Giles was the first black graduate of Cornell Medical School, the first black diplomate of the American Board of Surgery, and the first black attending surgeon at Cook County Hospital in Chicago. He was also one of the first 4 black members of the American Medical Association. Giles had a distinguished career both as doctor and a leader in professional and civic societies. He worked to reform the treatment of black doctors within the profession. For example, while serving as committee chair of the National Medical Association, Giles was instrumental in getting the abbreviation COL, for colored, removed from the names of black members included in the directory of the American Medical Association. Giles also pushed for reforms in the armed forces, trying to get them to hire black doctors and admit black officers to medical facilities. Giles was born in Albany, New York on May 6, 1890. He was the son of Francis Fennard and Laura Caldwell Giles. Giles's father was both a minister and an attorney in New York City. Giles grew up in Brooklyn, graduating from the Boys High School in 1907. While a high school student, Giles was a gifted orator, winning the B.B. Christ Medal in the subject, as well as a scholarship to Cornell University in Ithaca, New York. At Cornell, Giles majored in literature and was a member of the crew team. However, his father had influenced Giles since childhood to pursue a medical career, and Giles entered medical school after earning his bachelor's degree from Cornell in 1911. He received his medical degree from Cornell in 1915, the first black to do so. Giles then returned to New York City and passed the entrance examinations to the Harlem and Bellevue hospitals. In 1915, supported by the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People and the Sons of North Carolina of Brooklyn, Giles helped open admission to Bellevue and other city hospitals to black interns. Giles himself, however, chose to go to Chicago. In 1915, he began a 2-year internship at Providence Hospital there. In 1917, his admission exams for a junior physician position at the Chicago Municipal Tuberculosis Sanitarium outscored the other 250 applicants, but because of his color, he was not allowed to work there. Giles became an associate surgeon with Providence Hospital in 1917, and he also worked as a supervisor in the Chicago Health Department for 8 months of that year. On January 9, 1917, Giles married Frances Reeder, a registered nurse. They eventually had 3 sons together: Roscoe C. Giles I, who died as a child, Oscar DePriest Giles, and Roscoe C. Giles II. In 1917, Giles also was an attending surgeon for Southside Hospital, and he began a private practice that would last until his death in 1970. In 1925, Giles served as president of the Cook County Physicians Association. By 1926, Giles was a full attending surgeon at Providence, a position he also held until 1970. Giles also became a member of the executive board of the National Medical Association in 1926. He left this position in 1935. In 1930 to 1931, Giles traveled to Vienna, Austria, to study surgery for a year at several institutions there on a Rockefeller Fellowship. While in Vienna, he was elected to membership in the American Medical Association of Vienna's Executive Committee. After returning from Europe, Giles continued to do postgraduate work at the University of Chicago in anatomy and other subjects. In 1933, he held a General Education Board and Rosenwald Foundation Fellowship at the University of Chicago to study bone pathology. This experience resulted in the publication of several papers. Giles was elected the president of the National Medical Association for a year term in 1936. Giles held many such positions throughout his career. He was also elected president of the John A. Andrews Clinical Society, Tuskegee, Alabama, and the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. Additionally, Giles was a fellow of the American Medical Society, a trustee and founder of the Metropolitan Community Center Church of Christ in Chicago, and a member of the NAACP and the Urban League. He also belonged to the Chicago Medical Society. In 1938, Giles passed a competitive examination to become a diplomate of the American Board of Surgery. He was the first black doctor to achieve this honor. While still president of the National Medical Association, Giles formed the Goodwill Committee to remove the colored designation from the American Medical Association directory. When Giles's term as president was up, he chaired his committee beginning in 1938. He chaired this committee beginning in 1938. The designation ceased to be included beginning in the 1940 edition. The Goodwill Committee continued as special liaison committee to oversee matters that were of mutual concern to both the National Medical Association and the American Medical Association. During World War II, Giles worked in the Army Medical Corps. He was chief of surgical services in hospitals at Fort Huachuca, Arizona, from 1942 to 1945. He eventually attained the rank of lieutenant colonel. In 1945, Giles returned to Chicago and served in the Medical Reserve Corps. A year later, through the Surgeon General, Giles was appointed surgical consultant to the Secretary of War. Giles fought for black rights within the armed forces. He battled for the appointment of black doctors on local selective service system boards and the opening of military hospitals to black officers. He also sought to have black personnel admitted to all parts of the Navy. In 1945, Giles became a fellow of the American College of Surgeons, and the following year he became a founder and a charter fellow of the International College of Surgeons. Giles was also given an assistant professorship of surgery at the Chicago Medical School at Northwestern University in 1946, another position he held until 1970. In 1947, Giles became an honorary attending surgeon at Cook County Hospital. This was an empty symbol, however. He was not actually allowed to practice medicine there. In 1949, Giles became attending physician in surgery at Westside Veterans Hospital. By the late 1940s and early 1950s, Giles became more involved in medical education and residency training at Northwestern. In 1947, he became the alternate attending physician in Northwestern's Department of Surgery, a position he held until 1952. A year later, in 1953, he became the associate attending physician there. That year, Giles also became a full attending surgeon at Cook County Hospital, the first black doctor to be given such a position. While teaching and working, Giles continued to publish. In 1953, he published an article on gallbladder surgery, a 10-year survey of gallbladder surgery at Providence Hospital, in the Journal of the National Medical Association. His research proved that this disease is not as uncommon among African Americans as was previously thought. For this continuing work in the community and his profession, Giles was named one of Chicago's 100 Outstanding Citizens on December 12, 1957. Giles died on February 19, 1970, in Chicago's Veterans Hospital. In 1985, Cornell honored its alumnus by establishing the Roscoe C. Giles Award for Outstanding Contributions in Minority Education and the Roscoe Giles Award for Minority Students. Citations are in the description.